I moved to Sydney to get a little piece of the city life they're talking about in the 90s, where everyone I meet don't wanna know my name, they wanna know what I do for a living.
And I've got, well, you know, well, honey, if it works, it works.
That's what you're recording.
Don't you record this?
Not that.
Anyway,
The songs don't earn me money, fill my pockets with cash every time I go busking. And more in hash, everything I want's getting further out of reach, like a funky little apartment down in Bondi. I've been getting cozy with a Kiwi boy.
hi everyone, welcome to Urban Kitchen. Today we're making spaghetti bolognese, or my version of spaghetti bolognese. It's a very cold day outside, so it's a lovely meal to have when it's a little bit chilly out there. So I'll just show you the ingredients, and what we've got is I've got a mixture of pork and beef here, so even parts, 250 grams of each pork and beef. I've used blade steak and pork fillet. I've minced it myself, but once again, it's really up to you whether you get your butcher to do it or whatever. The other ingredients is the base of my spaghetti bolognese is just some celery, carrot, onion and garlic. And over here we've got some passata, or Italian tomato sauce, which is very good for this sort of thing. Some tomato paste. I might not actually use that, but if I have to, I've got some tomato paste. Of course, some parmesan. And today we have Guida Grove olive oil from Australia. And it's very important with this version of, or my version of spaghetti bolognese, is that you dice the vegetables very finely. So I'll just show you what I mean by finely, so you can... Okay, I don't think I'll need that second one. So what I do with the celery is I split it down the middle because you want it as fine as possible. And I'm just going to do very fine. Okay. So you can see that this is a red garlic. Mark asked me, he said it looks a little bit different than normal, and it is, and I actually don't know what it is. So what I'm going to do for you is that I'm going to find out what the difference of this red garlic is, and I'm going to put the information on the recipe that we put onto urbankitchen.net for you on the website, so I'll do that for you. So when it comes to cooking the vegetables, it's very important that you cook them slowly for about 20 minutes and on a medium to slow heat. What I normally do is that I'll heat the oil up for a certain amount of time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, pop in a piece of carrot. When it sizzles, and then you can place all of the vegetables into the oil and make sure that they're well coated. Drop the temperature down to a very low, and it's very important that you cook these slowly for 20 minutes, because what that does is it gives you a lot more flavour throughout the spaghetti bolognese.
So they caramelise, do they?
They nearly caramelise. Like I'm going to leave these cooking for about 20 minutes, and you can come and see nearly 10 minutes of cooking, and they're much softer, but we're going to leave those for at least another 10 minutes. Okay, so now it's time to put the meat in, and I just put the meat in a little bit at a time. You can hear it sizzling, so it's ready. You don't want the meat to stew, you want the meat to fry off as quickly as possible. I'm sure the cat will come running in a minute. So you've got to mix it, because otherwise it will stick. So you just have to keep moving, the meat around until it's crumbly and brown all over and there's no more red. That's what you want to achieve. I'm just going to add some salt in to the meat. It's very important that just a little bit of salt. Some people don't cook with salt, but I like to cook with salt, and then you don't have to add any more after. And I'm also just going to put some more pepper. This is Maldon sea salt from Essex in England, and this is the salt that I'm using. It's at this point that I like to add a cup of red wine. And so it's very right time now to talk about the wine that we're having with dinner tonight. And tonight we're going to have this 6'6" Pinot from Geelong in Victoria, Australia. And I'm just adding in about a cup of red wine, and you just let that cook off. And I haven't yet drunk anything on camera. Now, if you find the meat is not crumbling as fine as you want, a cook's tip is to get a potato masher and just squash it through so that you get the meat nice and fine. It's time to add the tomato paste. I'll probably attempt to add all of this, but I'm really just going to watch it, so I'm not going to add it all in at once. I'm looking for a soupy, like a thick consistency. This has got to cook for a good hour and a half, so in actual fact, you see, I've just poured it all in anyway, so so much for that idea. I think it depends on how much meat you've got. So I've got 500 grams of meat. And what now has to happen is this is now a very slow cooking spaghetti bolognese, and what I'd like you to do is just on the lowest possible setting that you can on your stove, just let it cook very slowly for at least an hour, and then that way the flavours go through. And remember, it's always best the next day, so you can actually cook this the day before and then reheat it for a meal the next day. So this has now been cooking for an hour, and if you come over here and have a look, this is the consistency that you want. It's nice and thick and everything's cooked together. Remember I showed you the tomato paste and it was actually an optional ingredient. I've actually not used it tonight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to boil our pasta. You generally just follow the instructions on the pack, and this is fettuccine, and it says...
Why did you choose fettuccine?
Oh, well, rather than spaghetti, okay. Look, spaghetti, like it's something different. You can have any sort of shaped pasta than you actually want. But I quite like fettuccine, but this cooks for 10 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the saucepan with some cold water. You do have to put some salt in some water, so a good teaspoon, like just, there you go, that's enough. Okay, so the water's boiling. And here we go. And what I'm going to do is I don't want the entire strand, so I'm actually just going to break this up as I put it into the water. Because I'm serving a couple of guys eating with us tonight, so I'm putting a little bit more pasta. Once I've broken all of this in, I'll boil this for about 10 minutes. So that's actually enough now. So that will just boil for 10 minutes, and you want it al dente. And al dente means just a little bit chewy. So I've cooked the pasta and I'm just going to drain it. Okay, so I've drained the pasta. It's taking a little bit of time. It's the smallest drainage implement I've ever worked with. I prefer a small amount of meat with my pasta, so you want more pasta than you want sauce. So what I like to do is I actually like to spoon some meat sauce into a pan. And what I'm going to do is just heat that through. But then, what I like to do is do the mixing here.
Crazy how it feels to me.
Okay, so that's ready now. That's the consistency I want. And I've just, as I said, used normal grated Parmesan. And there you have Urban Kitchen spaghetti bolognese.
Hey my friend, it seems your eyes are troubled, care to share your time with me. Would you say
whichever
you're
one you want, and you can
feeling low, and so
one that I
a good idea would be to get it on